Welcome to the film podcast that nobody listens to, the one and only. My name is Brodey.
And my name is David.
And we are the host of this brand new film podcast. That's right, a film podcast. Who would have thought one of those? These are rare. We don't see these too many nowadays, do we, David?
Yeah, almost never.
So it's interesting how this even happened. So I've always wanted to do a podcast for years. I've been telling myself every New Year's Eve, okay, I'm going to do a podcast this year. It never happened. I'm going to do a podcast this year. It never happened. So finally, I just hit David up, and we just said, let's just do a podcast, and here we are now.
I think you and I we had never done a podcast together. We had been on a few other podcasts separately.
Mm-hmm.
You and I just had, what was it? It might have been we did one of the Twitter spaces, and we realized oh, hey, you and I can bounce back and forth, in our conversations. A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah.
I think that's when you and I were this could work.
Yeah, we have good chemistry, which is key to a podcast because you want to listen to two guys or girls or whoever that have some energy and some vibe, and I felt like you and I had that perfect chemistry. So I think this is going to work out very well.
I think so too.
I'm very excited. Yeah, it's going to be great. I've been looking forward to this forever. And shout out to Dom Slomsky, Emily, my fiance's little brother. He is the guy who hooked us up with everything we needed to do this podcast. So shout out to Dom. You're the man. And
that kid's going to cure cancer one day.
That dude is a talented motherfucker. He is going to make a lot of money whatever he does because he is tech savvy. I call him the tech god because he knows his shit. And so thank you again, Dom, for getting us started on this podcast.
We owe you big time.
Yeah. So I guess we should just go off with kind of a little introduction for the both of us, just so they can get a clue of who we are. So my name is actually Garrett. My first name is Garrett. Last name is Brodey. I'm from Ohio. Yeah, that states. And I grew up, good family, good parents, middle class, no complaints. I guess my love of film started when I first saw Jaws. We'll get to that in a second. But then ever since Jaws, I just developed a love for cinema. And it's grown to where it is now as an adult. So, David, who are you, man?
Man. No, I don't know. I would say, just to start, my name's David Hernandez. From LA, from California.
Hey.
Yeah, so homegrown out here, and I can't really say I have one particular film that got me into it. I'll say that my brother got me into pretty much all my music tastes and everything that I have a real interest for, sports, and eventually film. That all came from my brother. I owe him a lot, and I would say that if I had to pick one, I think I might have been in the theater watching Casino Royale. I'm a big Bond fan.
Nice.
Casino Royale, I think, might have been the one that I remember walking out of that theater and being like, that's something else.
Yeah.
That movie transported me, you know what I mean? And since that, I think that might have been the one that flipped it for me, turned me into a really big film fan.
Oh, it's a great film. And your brother sounds like a guy who has incredible taste.
He does. Jose. Shout out to him. He will never listen to this. I will never let him listen to any of my podcasts. He's a good guy.
Shit, he should be a guest sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be down.
That'd be cool. Well, your brother is like my dad. My dad isn't really a big cinephile like we are, but he's the one who showed me Jaws. He's the one who showed me taste in music like Zeppelin. Classic rock. I love classic rock. You do too. That's what we have in common as well. But my dad showed me The Godfather, Goodfellas, just cinema that you need to see. And so shout out to him for showing me the classics and, going from then on to where we are now.
We should definitely have your dad on too in that case.
Hey, he's an Italian man. He could talk more than I can. He's the life of the party. Better. He is the life of the party. He's awesome. So yeah. And so David, we met on film Twitter. I don't exactly recall the year. I want to guess 2018 because that's when I sort of got onto film Twitter. Was 2018. You were one of the first people I've ever met on there. It was you, PokeGem, Tobias, which I don't even think he's on Twitter anymore, which is sad, and Kern, so like the OGs of film Twitter.
Yeah. I think you and I did meet somewhere around 2018. I've been on since maybe 2017. I think I remember it was like somewhere like in the summer of that year.
Yeah.
Getting on. I think the first few people I met up with were like Matt, unfortunately.
Yeah, Matt too. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, Kern, Ashley.
Oh, yes, Ashley too. God, I feel bad for not mentioning her.
Yeah, and I think Henry and Tobias were one of the first ones too.
Those guys, DJ Kaiser. I think I'm saying his name right, DJ.
I feel like all those dudes have been around longer than any of us.
Yeah.
And so most of those dudes were like my introduction to all this.
Yeah.
I can't say I love film Twitter as a whole. It can be a little bit poisonous.
It's a love-hate.
I kind of stay on the outskirts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I enjoy just the actual talk. When we talk films and stuff on there, it's pretty great. But
yeah,
it can get a little toxic sometimes.
Film Twitter, I love it because I met all of you guys from it, which is a bit blessing. Because growing up, I had friends, but they weren't really into films like I was. Like they liked movies. Don't get me wrong, but I was the one who like really liked the obscure, like weird artsy shit, and my friends were just not into that. So, I mean, we still got along and had fun and stuff, but like I always felt like kind of like an outcast of my friends because they all like sports. I'm not a big sports guy. I like Cleveland teams because I'm from Ohio. Go LeBron, my dude. But I'm not a big sports guy, and that's what they were. So film Twitter was like I actually met people I could talk to about films, and I can call like good friends.
Of course. Yeah, I feel like I think most of us that have connected with people on there have the same sort of deal where people in our real lives just never really got what we did out of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think a lot of people just look at it as a random form of entertainment, and we look at it for what it is. It's art. It's just another art form.
Yeah.
And I just don't think a lot of people get that.
Yeah.
And the ones that do, that's why there's such a like tight-knit community of us.
Yeah. Which is, it's so cool that, film Twitter can be toxic. Like there's some moments where I'm just like, I need to get off this site for a minute. But, it's just, you pick and choose your battles. Like if there's ever someone who is just being a dick, I just block them. It's just easy as that. I don't really like to engage in too many fights because I just don't care that much to argue with someone. Because we all have different opinions, and you and I are going to have some discussions where we have different opinions. But it's just, if you're civil about it, just like, you can say something about something you like, and I can say, well, I disagree. Here are my thoughts, and here are your thoughts. It's not hard. It's not hard to disagree on things and be civil.
Yeah, it's weird that when we're on there, there's a lot of, and sometimes it's not even people from film Twitter. It's like people from the outside that would just jump in, whether it's bots or trolls that try to just, they try to, they start talking shit, and it's just like, what's the point, man? Relax. Like, this is supposed to be a fun thing, It's not. I shouldn't say we can't take it seriously because there are things we can take out of film that other people don't. But you also don't have to be an asshole when somebody disagrees with you. You can be civil, and disagree. Yeah,
and that's why we work so well in our little group chat, which I'm never in. I always feel bad because I'm in like 3 different group chats and I just never respond because my day is busy. I always try to do it when I can. But well, you can only do so much, right?
Yeah. Trust me, I get you. Yeah. No issues with you there.
So from Twitter, well, do you want to jump right into our 2 films?
Let's do that. Yeah.
All right.
So I guess we could say we should just tell people Jaws is your favorite film.
Yeah.
As The Dark Knight is my favorite film, and I think for both of us, we both have, despite the fact that they might not be, Jaws might not be my favorite film, but it's still in my top 5. I fucking adore that movie, and I know you also love The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, one of my favorites. Always will be one of my favorites. But like I said when we talked on the phone earlier, what a hell of a double feature, by the way. Those two.
Yes. Like that would be an incredible double feature.
Incredible day, honestly. Um, so I guess we can start off with Jaws, and it's like, where to even begin? So I guess I'll start off when I first saw it. So it almost sounds like I made this up. I swear this is a true fucking story. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. Anyway, so I was 5 years old. My brother and I and my family, we were going to the beach, Myrtle Beach. The first year I've ever been to Myrtle Beach. I've been there a dozen or so times since then. I was 5. My parents were driving. In between their seats, we had a little TV with a VHS, like a TV VHS thing. Like it was all in one, so you could throw in VHSs in this TV and we could watch movies. That's how fucking old that was. I was see if I that was like 2000 2001, and so we had this TV plugged in, and we were watching. And my parents, for some reason, thought it was a good idea to show us Jaws on the way to the beach. And
Jaws at 5 years old.
yeah, I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. I was obviously scared. I didn't swim that year, but I remember just loving it. And even though I was young, very young, too young to watch it, I just remember like, and ever since then I've watched it so many times. I don't know how many times I've seen it, and it's just developed into my favorite film ever. Like it's just that movie that I could turn on at any time. It makes me smile. It's so rewatchable, like you said before. It's just the perfect film. And we'll go into the background of how fucked up the behind the scenes were, but just from everything they went through and Spielberg becoming Spielberg from that film, it's just an incredible piece of cinema. And I'm glad it's regarded as a classic. It deserves to get that title.
Yeah, I'll say I don't. I can honestly say I don't remember the first time I saw it because it's always been just a movie that's been on TV, always around me.
Yeah.
It's what maybe it was like one of like five, or maybe 5 or 10 VHS tapes that we had. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just an essential movie that almost every household I feel like had when we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing happened to me. To this day, I am not a strong swimmer because of that movie. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of us if we saw a movie super young and that movie just scared the crap out of me to the point where, to this day, I am just petrified of sharks more than anything else.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'm still not a fan of the ocean.
Same.
And it all stems, and I mean, as you get older, you learn more freaky shit about the ocean to begin with, but it all stems from Jaws.
Yeah.
Jaws it's a horror, it won't get that title from most people, but it's a horror movie, it's a drama, it's just so many things wrapped into one. It's a thriller, like it's the best. It's like it's probably the most rewatchable movie of the past 50 years. I can't think of another movie that I could just throw on any other day and just have it on. I'll immediately sink into it. I have to sit down and watch the whole thing.
Yeah. You're spot on about the blend of genres. That's something I was going to touch upon. I know people consider Jaws a horror film. I'm not saying it's not a horror film, but in my opinion, Jaws is more than a horror film. Like you said, it's a drama, it's a thriller, it's an adventure, it's a horror. It's all these genres blended so beautifully together. Spielberg is the master in many different ways, but what he does so well in especially his older films, is how he can just take all different kinds of genres and just blend them into this classic. I just only can say it's a classic. My favorite example is after Brodey sees the shark for the first time. That classic, come on, chum, some of this shit. And we see the shark, like not the first time, but like for real, we see the shark, like in its glory, and he slowly backs up, and John Williams' fucking badass score is going, and Quint's in the front ground, and you're gonna need a bigger boat. It's so great, and then they see the shark, and then instantly it turns into this adventure, like piratey score, and they're like ready for action to kill this fucking shark. It is so awesome. I just don't know how he did it like that. It's so amazing, really.
The fact that I don't think he was even 30.
He was 27. 7 years old.
Listen, I'm 25. I can't imagine being in charge of a crew of who knows how many hundreds of people at 27.
Yeah.
given a budget like that
Yeah.
to make basically the first summer blockbuster.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, we might as well jump into what he went through. But like, so Spielberg, he made I think it was Sugarland Express was his first feature. I haven't seen that. I need to watch it. So he wasn't a big name. He was just getting started, and he got the job because the first director, I told you this. I don't know who it was. They wouldn't tell, but I watched a lot of behind the scenes of Jaws. I know a lot about Jaws. I wrote a piece of it on my website because I finally did that, a big piece. But the first director, I don't know who it was, confused the shark with a whale, so they fired him because, come on, that's the first thing to know. It's a shark. Yeah. So Spielberg came on, and then, long story short, they went through production hell. Spielberg was bold enough to say, we're going to film this on the actual ocean in 1974. When, dude, could you just imagine having to film like on the ocean where it's like, this is what gets me. The shark is on a track, like a railroad track on the bottom of the ocean. That's how the shark moves, and it's connected to hydraulic tubing. So they would have to take a crane and move the fucking track and the base of the shark that they were controlling it from. That way they can get shots of the shark moving or the barrels moving and the fucking boat falling. They had to move that shit with a crane in the ocean. And look how it turned out.
It only turned out to be maybe the greatest movie ever.
Dude,
incredible.
Not just that.
They pulled that off.
Over budget, over schedule. Spielberg told stories about having nightmares about how he thought he was going to be fired, how the producers, Richard Zanuck and David Brown, two of the best producers in Hollywood, had his back. They gave him creative control. They knew that he was going to be a star, that they were smart motherfuckers. And the shark wouldn't work. That's the classic story about Jaws. The shark wouldn't work. It would keep fucking up in the ocean because it was the salt water just ruined its material. So Spielberg had to think on his feet, and man, he thought of the right shit. He said all the scenes in the movie with the shark is all they got. That's all they got of the shark working. So he had to think of other ways to show the shark without the shark, which is the barrels, the camera, the fucking music. And it worked way better to his advantage. Don't you think?
Yes, and I was going to say, the barrels serve as, forget about just like, okay, we know the shark is there. It leaves it up to your imagination more, and there's nothing more scary than your imagination.
Exactly.
And throughout the movie, you're just sort of like, well, what's down there? Especially the opening shot, maybe the greatest opening shot of all time.
Yeah.
In any movie.
Yeah.
You don't know what's down there, and this poor girl is getting mauled.
Yeah.
That's all you know. And she's got, and there's all that's left of her is her arm, basically. I mean.
Yeah, goddamn, like that's so fucked up.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that opening scene, and I think what it is too is because I've always heard from people like, oh, haven't you ever gone to the beach at night? I'm like, fuck no. Haven't you ever seen Jaws? Like, why the hell would I ever go to the beach at night? I don't care how romantic that. Like, no. Yeah. That movie just scarred me, and you bring up some of the troubled production. I mean, I think they said it was supposed to shoot in 53 days, and it went to 150 plus.
Yeah, they went way over budget. I mean schedule.
That's insane. And he says he thought he should have been fired. He probably should have been fired.
Yeah.
Any other director probably would have been fired. It's just that this guy happened to be, maybe the most important filmmaker ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's what made him Spielberg.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and thank God they didn't fire him.
Yeah.
Because who knows where we would be at now, in terms of films and what gets produced and what, because the films that he's produced, just aside from the ones that he's directed, I mean, that filmography is kind of untouchable if you throw in the movies he's produced too. It's insane.
Yeah. He's the man. We'll have a good discussion on him someday. We'll just go through his shit.
We'll one day have an entire Spielberg episode, and that might be a 3-hour pod, because that's a lot.
At that point, I want to watch all of his films, and I might do that this month of September. We'll see. But with Jaws, what really amazes me mostly about it is the fact that the film had like 5 writers. It had Peter Benchley, the author of the book, Carl Gottlieb, who I got to meet in real life, who was really fucking cool. Carl Gottlieb played. He was the bigger guy in one of the townsfolks, the guy with the mustache, the photographer, the journalist. I forget his name in the movie, but he played a little part in the movie. He was a writer. They got Howard Sackler as an uncredited writer. I guess John Milius wrote a draft. Robert Shaw wrote a draft. I guess Spielberg wrote a draft.
Peter Benchley is also in it, isn't it? I think he's like the
news guy. He's a news reporter, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you hear a movie having 5 writers, especially these days, that sounds like a fucking disaster. But the fact that it had 5 writers, and like you said, the script was being rewritten on a daily basis, how it turned out with these characters is truly amazing. Because the characters in Jaws are the best part of the film. It's not about the shark, it's about the characters. Because the second half of the fucking film is just 3 guys on a boat. That's it. And we care for them. Because they're so well developed.
First half, it's 2 films, basically. It's the first half, which is like a mystery, but not really a mystery. You know what's out there.
Yeah.
You're just trying to figure out how they can stop it.
It's intense.
The second half is a horror. It's almost a slasher movie in the water. You know what I mean? It's like, this guy is, this thing is gonna get them, and you're trying to figure out who it's gonna get and how it's gonna go, and holy shit, this thing is dragging them out further into the ocean.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And they're in his turf, in the ocean.
Yes. And
they have. I love the 3 main characters. Because they're all opposing with each other. You got Roy Scheider, the most underrated actor of all time. I swear to God, Roy Scheider is so good in everything he's done, as the underdog, the everyday man, the hero, the guy who's scared of the ocean, the chief, the one who's just trying to protect people and save people, the good guy, the hero, Brodey. I love him. You got Hooper. Richard Dreyfuss, the scientist, the young, college, smart, rich kid, funny. He's the comic relief. He has his own view on sharks. But then you have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Robert Shaw, the best performance of all time in my opinion. Quint, the best character in the film. He carries the movie for me. He is so fucking good in that movie. I cannot praise his performance enough, man. I know you feel the same way.
Yeah, Robert Shaw was just... I don't know how that guy turned in as many amazing performances as he did, and 3 years later, at the age of 51, which is just tragic.
Yeah, it's very sad.
That guy was amazing. And one day we'll have a longer discussion about him, but if you look at his track, by the time he was 51 when he died, he had this unbelievable filmography that not many people can touch. And then you know what? You bring up Roy Scheider. Roy Scheider may be one of the few people that actually could. Yeah. The fact that they were both together in a movie in their prime.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you how why this movie was so successful.
Well, Spielberg was right about one thing. The studio wanted A-listers like Robert Redford and Paul Newman and Charlton Heston, but Spielberg's like, no, the shark's gonna be the stars.
I think Robert Duvall was also talked about it too.
Yeah, but Spielberg's like, I want the shark to be the star. Let's just get a bunch of good fucking actors. I hate the word A-lister anyway. Let's get some good fucking actors, which he did. And fun fact, Robert Shaw was not the first pick for Quint. It was Lee Marvin. He turned it down. What's his name? He's the chief from The Godfather. What is his fucking name? Sterling Hayden. Sterling Hayden was the second choice, but he said no. So you're gonna think this is cool. Robert Shaw was picked because David Brown and Richard Zanuck, the producers, were producers on The Sting. And they said, hey, let's get Robert Shaw. And even funnier, Robert Shaw owed the IRS some money, so he basically did the movie for free. And look what he did. Look what the fuck he did for free. 3rd pick. Or 4th pick, whatever it was. And look what he did. Unfucking believable, man. It blows my mind.
I do think it's funny, though. You bring up his IRS issues. I think he had to, if I remember correctly, he had to go to Canada every few days, because otherwise if he would stay too long in the U.S., the IRS would be on his back.
Probably.
And and so I guess the whole deal was he could only be in the U.S. for a certain amount of days in a row, so he'd go back to Canada, and then he'd go back to keep going. That guy was something else.
Yeah. And we'll go into his performance and his overall career later, but
well, let me quickly ask you that.
Oh yeah, sorry.
What's your favorite scene in the movie?
My favorite scene in the movie is the famous Indianapolis speech scene, which is Spielberg's favorite scene too. That scene for me highlights what's the best about the film. You have the three characters, they bond over their scars. Hooper and Quint actually get along, and they're talking about their scars, and Brodey's over there just like he's got a surgery scar. And then Quint delivers that haunting monologue. I mean, I think it's the greatest monologue of all time. Then you got John Williams' haunting, eerie score behind it. And the way Robert Shaw, I fucking believe him when he says that he went through that. It's so like the way he describes what happened to him, which is a true thing, by the way, which is horrible. I couldn't imagine the fear those soldiers had to go through with the Indianapolis sinking. But that scene for me, I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. That's how powerful that scene is. And what's amazing, fun little fact, Robert Shaw, they did 2 takes. Robert Shaw came in fucking hammered one night and fucked the whole scene up. So the next morning he called Spielberg and said, "Hey, I'll do that scene again, but I'll do it in 1 take." So the next night they did it again, and Robert Shaw did that whole monologue in 1 take. Or not, I don't know about 1 take, but he did it all in one night or whatever, which is amazing. As you can see, that scene should have won him an Oscar alone. That scene alone.
Yes.
But
absolutely,
that scene is my favorite. What's your favorite?
Funny enough, it's the exact same scene.
That shows because there's no shark. It's just characters talking.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's my favorite scene. My second favorite scene is probably him and his son. And he's having the interaction with his son. He's, this is after Mrs. Kittner has like slapped him and blamed everything on him.
Yeah.
He's about as low as he is, at his lowest point in the movie.
Yeah.
And all he wants is a kiss from his kid.
Yeah. The mimicking scene.
Kid sort of like stirring him up. And I feel like that's all Spielberg. Like that's just what Spielberg does best.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah. And and that's why I think he particularly, amongst all other directors, just knows how to connect with general audiences.
Yeah.
And that scene is just I'm talking about that one just because I think you pretty much illustrated what's so incredible about the Indianapolis speech.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's real. I remember watching that as a kid. I was like, wow, that's a crazy story. I'm glad that didn't actually happen. And I looked it up, and it actually happened.
Yeah.
Which is
awful,
insane,
awful, man.
It's crazy.
That scene, that movie is actually because obviously internet wasn't a thing back then, so that wasn't really well known. Because the U.S. military kind of kept that a little hush hush, obviously because it's really fucked up. But Jaws really got that on the map, which it should have been known from the very beginning what happened to those poor guys.
Yeah, of course.
But you're right about that scene, the dinner scene. It's so beautiful, and the music, which we'll get into music here in a second. But I wanted to talk to you about a certain aspect of Jaws that I think is perfect: the plot, the idea that the shark is terrorizing this town, and the politicians, the mayor, who's a great character, is like, yeah, fuck it, we'll just keep the beaches open. We need the money. It's that type of plot will never age. Will never age. You know why? Because it happens to this day. Like corruptness.
Yeah, that's a very real thing that still happens.
Yeah, and I love that Brodey instantly took action when he saw the girl's arm. He's like, okay, we're closing the beaches. Fuck this. And then I love that scene when they're on that car boat thing, and the mayor's like, "You're gonna close the beach in your own authority?" And he's like, "What?" And then Brodey's like, "What the fuck?" Like, I mean, and then the mayor's famous, "You yell barracuda, people say, huh? What? You yell shark. You got a panic on your hands on the 4th of July." What a fucking classic line, by the way.
An amazing line. You know what? I wonder which one of the 5 writers came up with that one.
Oh, apparently, speaking of the writers, Roy Scheider says to this day that "You're gonna need a bigger boat" scene, the line was in the script. Carl Gottlieb, one of the writers, said that was ad-libbed. So I don't know who fucking is right, but it's funny how they can't even pinpoint that down. But the plot of Jaws is so how they managed to get out of that with 5 writers. Speaking of which, I read the book a long time ago, and no offense to Peter Benchley, I think he's a solid writer. He's got talent behind the writing, but his story is very different. The characters are awful. The characters are just awful people. Like, it's amazing how they took the book and said, let's make this better. Because Spielberg himself said that he hated the characters in the book. So he wanted to make him likable.
I was gonna say, Hooper is an awful person.
Yeah, he fucks Brody's wife in the book.
Yeah, he his wife. They like start cheating, and
it's just.
I also, gross. If I'm not mistaken, the mob is in the book too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're threatening the mayor, and I don't think you need that. I'm so happy they cut that out.
No.
You don't need that as the motivation for the mayor. The mayor, the money enough for, hey, we need the beaches to be open so we can make money. Yeah. That's perfect, and it aligns and it works.
Yeah.
And Murray Hamilton is incredible in that movie, and he's only in basically like 5 scenes or something.
He's so good. Every actor they picked was the perfect choice. Every single one of them. Which this is so cool. A lot of the side characters, like the minor characters, were just citizens of Martha's Vineyard. Like a lot, even the prominent characters who get some speaking roles. Like Mrs. Kidner was just an islander. She was just someone who lived on the island. And look what she did. Her scene alone when she slaps Brodey is so good.
Yeah, she's got 2 of the most powerful scenes in the movie.
Oh my god.
Her reaction to like trying to look for her kid. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to get through.
And let me just say, I'm sorry if I'm jumping around a lot with this, but one of my favorite scenes is Quint's introduction. It's never talked about a lot because I love it with his nails scratching, and then everyone turns around, and Spielberg dollies the camera towards Robert Shaw as he's given this fucking awesome monologue. Like, you know me, I earn a living. Like the way his accent's great too. Like all that shit. Then he just zooms in until he says, get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. It's so good. I mean, it makes me smile ear to ear just thinking about how good this fucking movie is, man. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, there's so much. There's a lot to talk about with this movie. We could do like 5 podcast episodes on this one, honestly. But like,
I know it's so much.
I also kind of want to talk about Hooper,
Hooper.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
Hooper. I do think it's funny that behind the scenes, Robert Shaw was like torturing him.
Yeah.
Like he went full method and was like genuinely like berating him.
Yeah.
And it was Steven Spielberg that told him like, you got to stop this. Like we need him for the movie.
Yeah. Well, it really helped with their like banter in the movie. Like it felt real, obviously because it was real.
Yeah. And I'll say this: Richard Dreyfuss, not known as being the nicest guy in the world, so who knows? Maybe Robert Shaw knew something before we did.
Well, Richard Dreyfuss, it's if you ever look up him talking about Robert Shaw now, like there was a video of like an interview with him where Richard Dreyfuss met Robert Shaw's granddaughter or great granddaughter or something.
Seen that.
Yeah, and he teared up, and he seemed like he really got a good experience out of working with him. Like, yeah, they bickered and probably fought, but that probably made him a better actor. Maybe Robert Shaw was trying to throw him a bone and like teaching him some things,
But I mean, I will never say that he's not a great actor. Richard Dreyfuss is an incredible actor.
Oh, he's great in Jaws.
And yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that you work with a legend like Robert Shaw and not learn something. Yeah. Especially if you got Roy Scheider right next to you on the other side too. Like that's pretty crazy.
Like they picked the perfect cast. Richard Dreyfuss definitely doesn't get as much love of the 3. I still think he's pitch perfect.
He's great.
He's so funny. I love his banter. He's just so good. My favorite scene with him is probably when he finds Ben Gardner's boat. And it's very mysterious. And the fucking music, we'll get to that in a second. But like when he sees the head, which by the way, side note, my dad got to see Jaws in theaters, like when it came out. He's so fucking lucky. He saw that, The Godfather. He saw all the good movies in theaters, Halloween. But he said in Jaws, when the head came out, people fucking screamed like bloody murder. And he said at the end when Brodey kills the shark, people fucking cheered like it was like the Super Bowl. He said it was the coolest thing he's ever seen in theaters.
Well, this will be a discussion at a later time because I do, you and I will eventually talk about like Marvel movies and all that.
Yeah.
But in that time in the 70s, there was no like superhero team up shit. There was nothing like that.
No.
So the idea of just having a crowd pleasing movie like that was kind of insane. And so
yeah,
to hear that, I didn't know about that, but to hear that, I mean, it makes sense because every time I watch it, it's just like, fuck yeah, like that so is the epic moment of like, fuck yeah, like he got it,
Got
and
that
it's just
motherfucker.
so it's yeah, it's such a satisfying moment.
And
Very few, and it, amongst movie deaths, can is there any that are as brutal as Robert Shaw in Jaws?
it's very
'Cause I remember
poetic.
that it is. It's poetic, but even beyond that, it's I can't think of it. I remember that his death in particular, like the way he just gets chomped into like 3 or 4 times, and the blood, like the second chomp comes in, and he
Yeah,
spits out blood like he's like he's toothpaste. You know what I mean? Like when you
yeah,
roll up the toothpaste and shit. I feel like I learned about fucking human anatomy when I watched that movie, that death scene the
yeah.
first time. You know?
It's so tragic, man. I mean, I think it's a perfect choice for the film. It's very poetic. It's ironic. Um, I wish he survived. I wish Quint could have lived on and gave his like sea shanties and drank beer and stuff. Which, by the way, if I could pick any movie character to have a beer with, it'd be Quint. His death is brutal, but I think it works for the film. It really works well. Speaking of, I gotta go back to Robert Shaw for a second. All of his fucking sea shanty rhymes and his little songs, those were all improvised by Shaw. That was all him. And it really worked well for his character. I love the scene when they're about to go on the boat to drive off into the sea. When Brodey hugs his wife and she's like, I don't like Quint. He's over there like saying some shit like, here lies the body of Mary Lee, died at the age of 103. For 15 years she kept her virginity. Not a bad record for this vicinity. Like all that shit is so fucking funny and just off the wall, and his little like farewell and adieu. Like all that shit just is so awesome. I love it.
Quint just feels like he was a real person.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like
a real
I
ass
can't, like I
person.
still can't, like yeah. I'm like this. There's no way this is a character. Like this is a real person. There's no way. You know what I mean?
My favorite character in the film, my favorite performance ever. Robert Shaw. I could talk about him. We're gonna have that discussion soon, for sure. He's so good. In that it's amazing. It's just amazing. And um, um, we should probably jump into the music at this point because it's hard not to talk about this movie without talking about John Williams, the god himself, the greatest composer, film composer of all time. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah. There's no doubt. And that theme, it's really 2 notes,
Yeah.
and it's probably like the most effective, and maybe next to Star Wars, and it might be ahead of Star Wars as the most well-known theme in
Yeah.
the world. Like you could, it's possible for you not to have ever seen Jaws, but you hear that music and you know that music.
It's so engraved in our pop culture. I watched the behind the scenes, like I told you, and Steven Spielberg said because he worked. That was the first film he worked with John Williams. I'm pretty sure, and he said that. I may be wrong. I may be wrong about that. I'm not sure, but he said okay when John showed him the theme, he took him over to the piano and played those 2 notes. Spielberg laughed and said, that's funny. Now show me the real score. And Williams was like, no, I'm serious. Listen to it. So he played it again. So Spielberg made him play it over and over again. And he's like, that's fucking genius. And so what happened was the film was finished and John Williams went through and scored the whole film as he watched it. And dude, I cannot say this enough. The music in Jaws is the best score of all time in my opinion. It fits the film perfectly. It's Spielberg himself said the score is 50% of why the film is so successful. And he's right. He is fucking right. In every scene the music plays, I get goosebumps. I'm like, I don't know what Williams was on or what, but he just did that fucking job, dude. God damn.
Yeah, I mean, that score. I'm glad you brought in the 50%. Yeah, I've heard that before, and he's right.
Yeah.
Because when he brought that up, I tried to like. I've seen some because there are like little YouTube clips of like certain scenes without the music.
Yes, I was gonna bring
And
that
it's
up.
just totally, it's a totally different movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, without the music, that there's really, and it's not to say that it's not like Spielberg or anything did bad. It's just that the music is such a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's all John Williams. I mean, same thing goes with Star Wars. I don't know if you ever heard about that story.
No.
That he showed the film. George Lucas showed that his whole little pack of directing friends, Scorsese and Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma. I guess he screened Star Wars for them before it had the music, and it just wasn't. They just didn't like it. Nobody liked it. Nobody understood it, and Spielberg was the only one who could see, the genius behind it, and said, whatever you're gonna do, just make sure that score is right. And sure enough, he picked John Williams to do it. And I mean, Star Wars also complete. That's maybe the greatest score ever, right next to Jaws. I mean,
Yeah.
That's all John Williams.
Oh, it's all John Williams, and you're right. And we're gonna have a discussion one of these episodes about music and films, because I really believe what makes a movie good is the music, because music resonates in every human being alive, every culture, everybody. And Williams, what he does so right is, like I said, with the shark wouldn't work, so Spielberg used the score, like Alex Kidner's death. We get that fucking zoom with the music, the dun dun, dun, and it builds and builds up, and that's the shark. That's the fucking shark. It's the score. Yeah. My favorite scene with the music, this may be random, but I always pick this one out for a reason. My favorite scene with the music is when Hooper is underneath the water, which, by the way, the stuntman who plays Hooper when he's underneath the water in the cage is Dick Warlock. Halloween 2, Michael Myers, which is kind of cool. He looks just like him. I always think it's Richard Dreyfuss, but it's Dick Warlock. Anyway, when the shark is approaching, we hear the classic dun 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 dun, dun. That gives me goosebumps, because it's so, it's the presence. The shark is its own character because of the music, and it's a fucking mechanical prop,
Yeah, again, we can talk about this all day.
Yeah.
There's just so much magic that went into this movie that's just like unintentional almost.
Yeah.
I don't think enough people talk, because everybody will talk about the actual attacks. Like the pond scene is on another level.
Gruesome.
When that little dinghy hops over and you just see like the outline of the shark in the water, and the guy just they time it perfectly, because they pull him down as you see the outline of the shark.
Yeah.
And that is nightmare.
Horrifying.
It's horrifying. And then obviously they cut straight to, I think it's Michael who sees it.
Yeah.
He's like in shock, and then they cut back to just his leg.
Yeah.
Falling to the bottom of the ocean. I mean.
Oh, it's so good.
Again, I don't know if of another movie. A lot of people will bring up Uncut Gems as a more recent thing of movies that can ramp up intensity and make you just white knuckle just tense movies. And I still don't think there's a movie that's more tense than Jaws. I watched that movie and I'm still
mm-hmm.
my palms are sweaty watching that movie even still today.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else like it. There's really nothing else like it.
Well, the ending for me is what gets me every fucking time. I know what happens, but I love after Quint dies, Brodey. Okay, what I love about the film, Quint does everything he can to kill the shark. He doesn't work. Hooper does everything he can to kill it. He fails. Brodey's left. Brodey thinks Quint and Hooper are gone. Well, he knows Quint's gone. He thinks Hooper's gone too. It's just Brodey. He's fucked. He doesn't know how to kill a fucking shark, so he's freaking out, which he stays pretty calm for it. Pretty well. The shark busts through the fucking glass. The boat's sinking. I love that scene. It sounds like the shark is growling, but it's just the water. Throws the tank in, and then he just climbs up to the top, stabs it a few times. The ending is so fucking awesome. I just can't describe it. I love how the music amps up the shark. He's like, fuck, I'm gonna shoot this motherfucker, and he just, smelly son of a bitch, blows it up. And like you said, that ending is so satisfying. It's the most satisfying ending of all time. I'm positive. And little fun fact about the ending. In the book is the lamest ending. The shark drags Quint under the water with a rope because he has barrels connected to him. Quint drowns, and then Brodey's just on the sunken ship screaming, "Don't doubt!" Just screaming like a little bitch, and the shark just drowns. That's it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the movie, it was Spielberg's idea to blow up the shark. That was his idea. All his idea. Peter Benchley said that's a stupid idea. No one's going to like that. And Spielberg said, I want the audience to be on their feet cheering when the shark blows. And he was right. He was right again. Dude, he was so right. That's what my dad said. That's what happened. Spielberg, he's a genius. But that ending is so fucking awesome.
Spielberg is just that guy, he just had like a sixth sense for what the audience would want to see.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think we've talked about the scene. I think it deserves a mention only because it's one of the greatest jump scares of all time. When they go basically night diving after they've checked the other shark that isn't, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
When Hooper goes into the water to go and check to, this boat that they found.
Oh yeah, Ben Gardner's boat.
Ben Gardner's boat. When his head pops up.
Yeah.
To this day, that scene is scary every single time. I know it's coming. It still makes me jump. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
That scene is so good, and that is all. Again, Spielberg just knows.
Yeah.
How to scare the shit out of you if he needs to. I don't know. I know he's never made a horror movie, a legitimate like horror movie.
Yeah.
He could if he wanted to.
Oh, he
like that scene is so great. I just think it deserves a shout out.
Yeah, by far.
Really good acting by Richard Dreyfuss without actually using any words. It's all in the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Speak eyes. That guy's eye was ripped out. Ben Gardner's eye, which is. Well, and one more thing about the ending. When the shark blows up and we see it sink to the ocean, we hear it growl, which is kind of cool. I love the music. It's a harp that's, I don't know what the word is, but it's just, the notes are going down and down and down. Like, it sounds like it's, the fucking thing is sinking. I don't know. I don't know the right terminology for it. But Williams, man, his score, like, it's just, it's so good. I just can't, I can't keep saying it how good it is. I'm just going to keep repeating myself. But the music, which he won an Oscar for, well fucking deserved. Well-deserved Oscar win. God damn.
Yeah, I mean, what's insane to me is that John Williams, I want to say he's been nominated
50
times?
50
that
times.
Number, I'm like...
It's nuts.
That's not... Like, that can't be a real number. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And then, and honestly, like, he should have, like, 20 Oscars. Like... He's got like 5,
yeah,
and
he has
I'm like,
5,
I'm
which is
almost
good
offended.
Enough, yeah. It's got for Jaws.
Yeah, I'm almost offended by the amount.
It's got Jaws, Star Wars, the first one, the fourth, whatever, the original Star Wars.
He's got is Schindler's List his too? I think it's also his,
Schindler's List and Fiddler on the Roof. I don't remember the 5th one. I think it's not Raiders or Jurassic Park. I don't remember, but he has 5. I know he has 5 for sure.
I think it's Jurassic Park. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. No, it can't be Jurassic because Jurassic and Schindler's List came out the same year, and Schindler's List won.
I'm gonna look it up. But dude, I mean, we can go on and on. I don't want to, because we're at a pretty good mark where we could transition to The Dark Knight. Unless you have something else you want to say about Jaws, because I felt like we dove pretty deep.
I mean, again, we might have to revisit it again at a later point because again, I think we can go on. We could this one episode. I got but do you want to cut this out or not? I'll just tell people we were afraid that if we only talked about 1 or 2 movies, that the pod could become kind of dry. But when it's a movie like Jaws, there's just so much we can talk about.
There's still a lot we can talk about.
Yeah. This could be a 3-hour pod of just Jaws talk, honestly.
But we gotta dive deep into The Dark Knight, which is another phenomenal film, and I want you to introduce it and give your story since this is your favorite film.
So as far as The Dark Knight goes, at that point I think I'm 12, going on 13 years old. It's 2008. I remember seeing the news of Heath Ledger's death. Mm-hmm. I think January of that same year, and at that point it hadn't hit me because I'd really only known him for 2 movies, and that was Brokeback Mountain and 10 Things I Hate About You. And I've always loved Heath Ledger, even when I was a kid. But his death didn't really hit me until after The Dark Knight came out, when it, And I remember going to the theater, and everybody was. I can't even describe the hype for that movie because I remember seeing Batman Begins in theaters.
Yeah. And
at the very end, when they leave the Joker card, when Gary Oldman flips over the calling card of the escaped person from Arkham Asylum, it's the Joker card. And I remember the theater going nuts. This is 2005, and I remember, Dark Knight came out in 2008. I remember there was like just a long lull where I think almost everybody had forgotten,
Yeah.
And it's around 2007 when you see like the first snippet of Heath Ledger as the Joker, and you see the trailer, and you're just like, who is that? That is not Heath Ledger. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who that guy is. That's not Heath Ledger.
No, it's the character.
And yeah, I mean, and going to see that in the theater, I can't. It's almost hard to describe just the magnitude of that movie. That movies that are just landmarks. Jaws was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
I think The Dark Knight sort of changed the perspective that people had on comic book movies, because before that they were kind of cartoony.
Yeah.
They were very campy. They leaned way more towards that, or very cheesy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But the tone after that, after The Dark Knight, the tone significantly changed.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
and obviously you still had the Marvel movies that lean more towards comedy and whatnot.
Yeah.
But The Dark Knight just came in, and that opening scene, obviously very heavily inspired by Heat.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen anything like that. That intro is one of the greatest intros I've ever seen to any character.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
Yeah. Go ahead and take it from here, because I'm gonna keep going.
No, dude, you're spot on. I remember The Dark Knight is one of my favorite theater experiences. Just like you, I went to a local theater and it was fucking packed. I mean, full house. You can barely move in the whole theater, like not just the movie theater, like the place itself. And I was so hyped to see it. I didn't see the Batman Begins in theaters. I saw it. You know what? I think I saw it after The Dark Knight. I don't remember. My memory is awful. But The Dark Knight I was hyped for because I love Batman. I loved the '89 Batman Returns. Not a fan of Joel Schumacher's take. Not saying they're bad. I prefer the darker takes on Batman because it seems better when it's not campy. Anyway, so The Dark Knight. So I just remember just being so enthralled, so fucking just sunken in my seat. Like I was in the what's that called? Get Out, the sunken place. That's how I felt watching the film.
Place.
That's how I felt watching it. Like it was just just hypnotized by how good it was. I saw that movie 5 times in theaters, which was a lot for me because I didn't drive back then. I was like your age, 12, 13, and my parents would have to drive me there all the time. And I just remember just loving it, man. Just I wanted more. Like when it ended, I wanted more. Like I had that experience with Blade Runner 2049 too. But Dark Knight, I was just completely in love, and it's always been one of my favorite films. I told you, all my life, Jaws, The Sting, and The Dark Knight have always been in my top 5 and 10. Forever. The Dark Knight is just one of those films, man. It deserves the hype. I believe it's the greatest comic book ever made. I honestly believe it's Christopher Nolan's best film. I think it's Nolan at his absolute best. And we can get more into that in a second, but The Dark Knight, I mean, Heath Ledger, what can you say more about it? One of the greatest performances. You go from Robert Shaw to Heath Ledger, like,
yeah, I know.
God damn, like
it's like, yeah, let's talk about 3 or 2 of the 5 greatest performances ever.
Yeah, god damn, like it's just it's so good, and I need to rewatch it. It's been a while, but just the introduction, the tone, it's just Batman Begins was good. The Dark Knight was fucking phenomenal, and The Dark Knight Rises is a different story. But yeah, so what do you want to talk about first about this film?
Well, I mean, I feel like we can just have the Heath discussion now if you want to, because I feel like that's a big. That is just the greatest performance. The greatest performance, like I think that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's scary. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, there are a few that to me that are up there. I think Daniel Plainview. Lewis.
Oh yeah.
I think Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh. I think Anthony Hopkins as
Hannibal Lecter.
As Hannibal Lecter. I think Robert Shaw. I think De Niro.
Yeah.
In Godfather 2 and Pacino, Godfather 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's up there. It's right up there. It's just I can't. It's hard to describe because I remember the first time I saw it. I was actually, I'm 12, 13, so it's, we're in middle school. We're older at that point. I was genuinely scared of that guy.
Yeah.
He's fucking intimidating, and I remember the scene that really stood out to me though was when he did his little handheld thing when he kills one of the fake Batman.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That scene is fucking terrifying.
Nolan, make a
When
horror
he's
film.
yeah, I mean he's taunting him, and you know he's gonna kill him, and he's losing his shit as that scene is progressing.
Yeah.
And you know, what does he say? He says, "This is how crazy Batman has made Gotham."
Mm-hmm.
And I think he says, you know, more people are gonna die unless he shows his face.
Yeah.
And that little and it really is Heath Ledger just filming that. And I guess I that oh man,
Yeah, he
that
directed
scared the
those
crap out of
scenes.
me.
He directed
Yeah,
those
he directed
scenes.
those scenes, and they're frightening. He's great at that. I mean, that guy was just an unbelievable talent.
I know.
Died at
God damn it.
28. Still can't believe that at 28.
I know. Well, he won the Oscar, well deserved. But when I watch the movie, I actively look for Heath Ledger. I try my best to just picture him. I don't see it. I know he's wearing makeup. Even that scene where we see him without makeup for a second, I don't see him. His voice, like he's Australian. He was Australian, right? Or British?
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's got a deep voice. He sounds like Matt, but he's cooler than Matt. So, but then he has that, like, I mean, we all can imitate him at this point because we've all done it our whole lives. But the way he just like when he first speaks, I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger. Like he nailed that voice, the laugh, the mannerisms, you just don't see, you see the character. You don't see Heath Ledger at all. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I know he had some bit of prosthetics, like in and around his mouth.
Yeah.
Even so, you should be able to see him, and I can't. I'm still like, are we sure this is Heath Ledger?
You sure it's not
Like
actually the Joker?
Yeah, I'm like this is, by the way, and like it goes without saying, he had to go into that movie knowing the expectations of, oh, Jack Nicholson played this character and is iconic in the role.
Yeah.
You know, as a Batman fan, I know Cesar Romero was, you know, one of the, you know, the old school show.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually was really good in it. And, you know, if you enjoy the campiness of it.
Yeah, he's
But
good.
the animated series is amazing. We can talk about that one all fucking day. Mark Hamill with the best Joker voice, I think.
Oh yeah, he is the Joker voice. The laugh.
Yeah, that's, you know, his is the voice I hear when I'm reading a comic. And yeah, I could talk about just that voice. I mean, that characterization all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Heath Ledger was just. Yeah, I'm almost having trouble just describing that performance. The first time I walked out of that theater, I remember kind of looking at my brother again. My brother was just in the thick of everything I watched, and I remember looking at my brother, and he was like, and I was like, you know, because I think Iron Man had come out a few months earlier, and we both loved Iron Man. Yeah. And I remember looking at him like, was that better than Iron Man? And I remember him like kind of giving me the, dude, that was better than anything.
Yeah.
I remember him telling me that, and I was like, yeah, I think you're right. Like it was just such a like drop the mic moment. And at the very end, you know, not to like jump ahead, but the fact that, you know, the way that it ends, I was just like, we're never gonna see that character again. We're never gonna see Heath play that character again. And I was so happy at the, you know, after watching it, and then also kind of bummed because I was like, we're never gonna see that again.
No.
And that was just unreal. That's just an unreal performance. You know?
And you're right. It's the best blockbuster since Jaws.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of quality, it's right up there.
Yeah, Nolan. I love Nolan. I know he's your favorite. Nolan has his strengths and he has his weaknesses, in my opinion. But every filmmaker does. But Nolan, for me, his best work is The Dark Knight, because he is so good at these epic blockbusters, just these bigger than life stories, and his style with comic book movies is very interesting. On paper, it sounds awful. His realistic, like Nolan-y-esque shit just doesn't sound like it would work well, but it just does with The Dark Knight. It does so well. I don't know how to describe it, but like, he is so larger than life. He takes this story, and it just works. I don't care about the plot holes. Every movie has plot holes. Comic book movies have plot holes. I mean, shit, it's about a big purple Homer snapping a finger and half the universe is gone. And like The Dark Knight, yes, the Joker's timing is pitch perfect. Who gives a fuck? It's awesome. It doesn't bother me because I'm so entranced, like I said, in the story and the characters. I never even thought about like the little inconsistencies of the story because I don't fucking care. Like it doesn't bother me. Like it's not something that would detract me from my viewing, at least for me. Like I can see someone else saying, "Well, the Joker, he just like the guy just like who cares? The Joker is the greatest villain in any pulp culture history." And I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think it's Nolan's best work. I don't think he could top it at all. It's tough.
It's yeah. I mean, I have a tough time thinking of. I mean, again, I'm a big Nolan fan, so Inception for me, Interstellar, The Prestige, I adore those movies.
Yeah.
Um, but The Dark Knight, there's just something. There's something special. I remember just walking out the end and just being like, this is special.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how many. There are certain movies that you walk out of and you're like, this is one of those movies that's going to be like an all timer. You can already tell. You can almost tell that right away when you're watching a movie like that. I remember walking out of The Dark Knight and just being like, yeah, this is an all timer. And very rarely, every few years you'll get one like that.
Yeah.
Where you walk out, and you're like, yeah, that was special, and that was one of the few. And I mean. Tell me what your favorite scene was. I think you and I both share the same favorite scene.
Just like Jaws, the interrogation, I just spoiled the Indianapolis scene in Jaws. My favorite scene in The Dark Knight is the interrogation scene. I remember seeing that in theaters and just being like, "This is awesome." I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it when the hero and the villain, the protagonist, the antagonist, two opposing characters have a conversation. It is the most thrilling thing I could ever watch. I don't even care if they talk about toast. Their ideologies are so different. I love how the Joker is just spewing this bullshit. I mean, he's not wrong though what he's saying, and Batman's just thinking, "I want to fucking beat his face in." But the Joker wants Batman to kill him. That's his plan. He wants him to kill him, and it's the whole argument of this Batman kill. We're not going to get into that. That's a fucking toxic conversation. But I just love the Joker is just saying like, "We're the same. Like you complete me." Like all that shit. And Batman's like, "I'm nothing like you." I love that shit. And it gets intense when Joker reveals that he has Rachel and Harvey, and then Batman just beats the fuck out of him. And the music that I love the Joker's theme in the movie. It's like like in Jaws, the rising note where I guess it's a knife scraping against a piano chord, I guess is what I read up one time. But that scene is top 10, top 3 my favorite scenes ever, honestly.
Yeah, that is my favorite scene of all time.
Hell yeah, good scene.
I mean, but when I think about that scene too, and it kind of leans into the very end when he's got the Joker hanging upside down.
Yeah.
And it's such a nice little touch that that the Joker, throws in there, and that Heath Ledger decided, hey, this is for the fans. Like I could tell he could. When he throws in the whole I don't want to kill you. Like you and I, and it leads into what he says at the very end when he's got him upside down. He says, you and I are destined to do this forever.
I love it.
And I was like, that's just, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he would say. And he's right. Yeah. They were destined to do that forever. And it's just, and, The Dark Knight is just basically, the trilogy as a whole is just Nolan's take on what would happen to a guy if he was real who decided to become a superhero.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people kind of get. I know a lot of really hardcore Batman fans who don't love it, which is kind of insane to me. And the reason that they don't love it is that, Batman wouldn't do this and he wouldn't do that. I'm like, this isn't.
Oh, are you Bob Kane?
This isn't your comic book. Yeah, this isn't your comic book Batman.
Yeah.
This is a real take on what a guy would be, on a real life guy, if he was actually Batman,
Yeah.
This is a real life person if he decided to become Batman.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
No one takes the comic booky out of the comic book film, which, again, on paper sounds bad. But his style...
It could have been a disaster.
His style works so well for it. It's hard to describe, because no one has that realistic... I think, not like real in terms of like, I believe it, but like just like I always think of Law and Order when I think of Batman, The Dark Knight. I don't. That's not an insult. I love Law and Order, but I just get that like neo noirish Law and Order Heat, especially Heat vibe, like Michael Mann. Like if Michael Mann made a Batman film,
Yeah. Oh, totally.
which would be cool.
I mean, and I mean, I think Nolan himself has alluded to the fact that The Dark Knight is heavily inspired by Michael Mann's Heat,
Yeah.
and he totally gets it.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah, I can totally see it. Even, I think even before he said it, I was like, this is kind of Heat-ish.
Yeah.
Like, it just gives off that sort of vibe. And again, I think that'll be a fun discussion when we bring up Heat one of these days. But at The Dark Knight, I remember in particular about the after Heath died, they sort of had to throw in the ending, when Two-Face dies. And we'll get into Aaron Eckhart in a second, but like, it's a bummer that what was supposed to happen for The Dark Knight Rises was going to be a courtroom drama with Heath, being basically just grilled on the stand while Harvey is out there, wreaking havoc. And them trying to figure out what he did to him, what exactly was it he told them that, turned their white knight, and, brought them down to their level, as Heath says in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that we never got to see that. And I know you're not a big fan of The Dark Knight Rises. I still love that movie, but I acknowledge that it has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I still would have loved to have seen what the original plan was for that trilogy.
Oh, dude.
And I mean, I guess it's a good way to segue into Aaron Eckhart. What do you think about Aaron Eckhart?
Underrated performer. I mean, I know underrated, overrated masterpiece for throwing out a lot these days. I don't care. In terms of, like, he's like the Richard Dreyfuss of this movie. He's just not as talked about as much, which is a shame because he is so good in this movie. He is so fucking good. He is just that just, he wants to be the hero and he doesn't care what happens to him. And his downfall is really tragic because they do kill Rachel. It's fucking sad. Then I love when the Joker comes to talk to him. Because the Joker is like, I'm not a guy with a plan. It's like, yes, you are, you fucking liar. Like, I mean, it's funny how he really gets to Harvey. Because at that point, Harvey is so fucked up because half of his face is melted off. And he's sad and heartbroken. So I can see why he would believe it. But Joker's little speech, and that's when Harvey gets his coin. And my one issue with Harvey, I told you this before. I love Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent. I like what they were going to go for, but the look for me, it doesn't look bad. I think it looks great to this day. I like the comic booky look of it. His look is just reminds me of a zombie in a way, which is, it looks great. It's really, really phenomenal CG. I just prefer like the animated series Two-Face. That's just me, but it's perfect. Yeah,
no, I think that's fair. I think Eckhart is really good in the movie. In general, I think he's like a really underappreciated actor.
Yeah.
He's usually really good in pretty much everything that he's in.
Oh, yeah.
Aside from that one really awful Frankenstein movie they did a couple years ago.
Oh, my God. I forgot about that movie. God damn.
That movie's awful. But, like, his downfall in the movie, I mean, that really is the biggest... That is the art. That is basically the Joker's point, is that if I can turn this guy... he wants to just suck all the positivity out of Gotham. That's what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. He wants to just say, nobody is uncorruptible. And he's right, sort of. Which is kind of crazy to say. He kind of proves it right.
Yeah.
And, I guess I'm sure some people will disagree with me on that, but, like, I don't know. I mean, one thing that I really like about the Joker is that his bullshit about how he changes up his story every time somebody asks him about his scars.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's sort of like, I don't remember catching this when I was 12 or 13. I knew he would change it every time, but it didn't hit me why he would do it until I got older. Like, oh, he's just full of shit. He just says whatever he needs to manipulate people.
Mm-hmm.
And again, those are just like little. I think those are little touches that um, Heath Ledger sprinkles in, like where he might like lick his lips here and there and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I don't know. The little mannerisms and stuff that he throws in there are just they're so unique. You know?
I would argue he's the greatest villain in film history, um, by far. And like, if you really think about it, for his character, whatever happened to his face, I think he just did it to himself. He physically took a knife and cut a smile in his face. That's some dark shit. That is a fucking dark movie. But no one takes his like he does like kind of what Spielberg does and just takes these dark things and lightens them up that where it we don't really realize it at first, like, oh my god, that's fucked up. You know?
Yeah.
It's pretty genius. And Heath Ledger, we can go all day with him. But dude, not only him and Aaron Eckhart, but you got Christian fucking Bale, first of all, as Batman, which is a really my favorite Batman. Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Maggie Gyllenhaal. The whole cast is Morgan. I always forget Morgan Freeman's in it. The whole stacked is cast. The whole cast.
The fact that Morgan Freeman can be like 10th on the billing of this movie kind of shows just how good this cast is. You know,
like amazing cast, and you know we go from there, and then we go to Hans Zimmer, his score, which I'm just thinking about right now. His Batman theme is cool. I always prefer Danny Elfman's score over anything for Batman because that to me sounds like Batman, the original '89 film and Returns.
Yeah, of course.
But Hans Zimmer is an interesting guy. I like him. Don't get me wrong. And I think his score for The Dark Knight is good. Sometimes I think it's a little overbearing. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I do like what he does with The Dark Knight.
So I'm a big Hans Zimmer. I would put him right behind John Williams as like the closest thing we'll ever get to like the greatest ever.
Oh, that's fair to say. Yeah.
Not to go into like other movies, but like his score in Dunkirk, the way he kind of ramps up like this little ticking clock sound and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in Interstellar, it's like this organ, like this dramatic, like choir organ, you know, like church organ that he uses. It's just he's something else. And in The Dark Knight, right? And I think he was helped out a lot by oh boy, now I'm gonna botch his name now. Oh boy, the other guy that works with Nolan. Let me look this up real quick because he was helped out by somebody else in this.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. So I think they like did it together. It was, let's see here.
But I would say Interstellar is Hans Zimmer's best score. That score is amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. That might be
organ.
like the best score of the decade. I love that score so much.
That'd be a good discussion because I know you love Interstellar. I think it's good. I don't love it. So that'd be a really good discussion too sometime.
Oh, we could almost do one episode just on that one because I feel like that movie is just there's a lot to tap into.
It's so deep. Jeez.
James Newton Howard. So I was like,
oh no shit. Okay.
Yeah, so James Newton Howard helps. I think him and Hans sort of like split it 50-50. And James Newton Howard, by the way, no slouch of his own. He's an incredible composer too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the music sort of, again, it ramps up, you know, in particular, I think in the opening bank heist scene, it sort of like ramps up the intensity. You get that, like, I don't even know what exactly it is that he's sampling, but it's just great. I don't know. That score is incredible.
What a brilliant intro. I know you mentioned it earlier, but like the best way to introduce the villain is you have a bunch of guys robbing a bank, and they're slowly killing each other off because the Joker told them to kill them off. And they get to a point where it's just the Joker. It's so, what a fucking introduction. You are right. I love when he takes off the mask and he's like, you know, he says to that banker and he puts that fucking, what was it, like a smoke bomb or something in his mouth, and he drives off in the bus with the other buses. But wouldn't the other bus drivers call, like, no, who gives a fuck? It's a brilliant fucking introduction. I don't give a fuck about these stupid little plot holes. I don't care. It's awesome. It doesn't bother me. And just because I say the movie has plot holes doesn't mean I'm saying it's bad. Okay? Every movie has plot holes.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Even Jaws, I can't think of any right now, but every movie has plot holes. They're all not perfect. I don't care. It's how you feel about them, man. And the way we feel about Jaws and The Dark Knight is all that matters, you know?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And yeah, I was gonna say like, I've talked to other people already who, once we announced this podcast, have interest in coming in, and I can tell you right now, a friend of mine who's in our chat, Maria. Not
Okay.
sure how often you talk to Maria. She and I have an affinity for the Fear Street trilogy that just recently came out. I don't know if you saw those.
Emily and I watched the first and second one.
Did you like them or not?
The first one was my favorite of the two. It reminded me of like a slasher's greatest hits. It was a bunch of homages to, especially Scream, to a bunch of horror movies. I really
Scream,
liked
yeah.
that. I liked how it just said, let's take all the good things about slash films and put it in this film. I liked it. I gave it a 3 out of 5, if I recall correctly. It was very goosebumpy, and I love goosebumps. The second one, I just was not that into it, man. I loved how dark it was. I loved the scene where that guy just butchers that fucking fat kid. That was so like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. That was really like, man. But then it would cut to the scenes of those two dipshits in the cave just like crying. It's like, I don't really care about these two. Can we just go to the fucking, can we go back to Jason, not Jason? But you said you guys have a what together with the series?
We have a big time affinity for this trilogy, and she and I have done a Twitter space about it too. You can poke so many holes into that trilogy. There are so many plot holes, but just my whole point for
Yeah.
even bringing this up is that we adore them. We love them. We love the trilogy. I
Hell
hate the
yeah.
idea of like guilty pleasures. I think that's bullshit. I think you
Dude,
enjoy what you enjoy.
dude, that should be an episode of all about guilty pleasures. I feel the same exact way as you. I fucking hate that term. It's stupid.
Yes. Yeah, I fucking hate that. People should enjoy what they enjoy. Don't
Yeah.
have any guilt over it.
Yeah, it's
Just,
stupid.
like what you like.
And you're
Yeah.
right. Dude, one of my favorite films is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. That movie is full of stupid fucking shit. And I can acknowledge that, yes, it is silly and stupid. But I don't care. I love it. But what about it's 9 p.m., but that's Central Time. That means the East. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I love it. I don't care. So when I say this movie has plot holes, I'm not saying it's bad. I know I didn't say anything about Jaws having plot holes. It probably does. I just don't pay attention. The point is, I don't care about the and it sounds bad. I'm not trying to sound like it's saying bad, but it's just for me. Yeah, there are things about it that doesn't make sense. Do I care? No. Do you care? No. That's all that matters. There's no perfect
Yeah.
film. I know I'm repeating myself. I don't want to. I want to make sure people know that I'm not calling The Dark Knight bad. It's one of the greatest films ever made. It really is. I love it.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, yeah. And again, what's funny is there are things you can poke at with the Dark Knight. I don't think there's nothing I can say about Jaws. Like Jaws to me is just untouchable. And is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the Dark Knight? Because again, I think we can go all day on the Dark Knight.
It should have been the first superhero film to be nominated for Best Picture. I know it doesn't matter. I'm not dogging Black Panther. I like Black Panther. I think it's one of the best Marvel movies. I'm not a Marvel movie guy. I know I told you that. The Dark Knight should have been nominated. It should have been Christopher Nolan's first directing nomination. I mean, how the fuck was it not? I have no idea. How did they go to Slumdog Millionaire? I haven't seen that in years.
That is not a. I mean, it's fine,
Yeah,
but the fact that it won is just kind of insane.
go Dev Patel. Love him. I like Danny Boyle, but yikes. But The Dark Knight is one of my favorite films. It'll always be one of my favorite films. I will champion it till the day I die. I love it. It's unless the Batman is gonna be as good as I think it will be. The Batman might dethrone The Dark Knight because let me tell you what, the Batman looks like the type of Batman film I've always wanted to see. The Dark Knight's very close to that. I love the gothic noirish style of the animated series, and I think the Batman, the Robert Pattinson new one, looks like it's gonna be like that. And if it's gonna be like that, dude, I might have to dethrone The Dark Knight for me. Well, obviously I haven't seen it yet, but the Batman looks like something I'm gonna fucking love, So it's just we'll see. But The Dark Knight's always gonna be top tier, one of my favorites. Love it. It's perfect.
Well, I'll say this about the new. I mean, just from the look of it, obviously we haven't seen it yet, but it looks like some kind of a marriage between the '89 Batman and the Dark Knight.
Oh,
Like it's
fuck yeah.
way more serious in tone than the '89 one, but it also does have like that sort of that gothic look that a Tim Burton movie would have.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. I'm like, oh, this is like some kind of a blend between the two. And the idea of Paul Dano as the Riddler, I can't wait to see
perfect casting. Pitch
Yes.
perfect. They wanted Jonah Hill. No offense, Jonah. Paul Dano, bro.
No, thank God it
Paul
didn't happen.
Dano. One of the most underrated best actors ever. Perfect casting. I could not have picked a better Riddler. Perfect casting. Matt Reeves, you're a genius. But yeah, I really I have nothing else to say about The Dark Knight. I think it's perfect. 10 out of 10. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll we will bring this up again.
By far.
I don't expect us to stop talking about our two favorite movies. I'm sure we will bring them up again at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, all I'll say is they're our two favorite movies for a reason. They mean a lot to, even besides the fact that they're like these great, excellently made movies. And I will say, just to connect one more thing, I feel like Nolan does have a little bit of Spielberg in him, in that he knows how to connect. He's like the only original filmmaker that I can think of now that can get big time audiences to like come and see his films. I can't think of other directors that can do that now. Like, he's really the only one that I can think of. It's kind of insane.
I mean, maybe Tarantino, but his movies don't nearly pull in as much money as Nolan does.
Like, I was gonna say, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think did the most money, maybe like of any of his films, and it did like 200, 300 mil, which is, I mean, that's really good. But like,
that's peanuts
Nolan's
for Nolan.
Worst films,
billion.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nolan's most of his are gonna go, 500 million plus. Like, it's kind of nuts.
By the way, Nolan over Tarantino, but that's a different discussion.
I agree with you, but again, we'll have that. I can't wait for that discussion. That's gonna be a good discussion.
Yeah, Jesus. All right, well, that was fun. I'm glad we got to talk about this too. Like you said, we'll bring those up again. I guess at this point of the podcast, this is where each episode, either you and I will recommend a film for the other person to talk about the next episode. And we decided that I would be the first person to recommend a film, which is cool. I'm going to recommend a movie I know you haven't seen, because otherwise you would have told me you already have seen it. But I recently discovered this movie this year. Not discovered it, but I watched it this year after I did a marathon at one of my favorite actors, Dan O'Hurley. It is a film from 1958. It is called Home Before Dark. It is one of the best films I have ever seen. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it. It is excellent. It is a drama. A straightforward drama. Home Before Dark. Yep. I watched it on Prime.
On Amazon Prime?
Yes.
I can tell you, I actually already have it on my watch list because I actually have heard of it.
Probably for me, because I've been, dude, ever since I've seen this, I've been championing it forever. It's one of my favorite films. It is just a hidden gem, beautifully made, awesome, just probably my favorite drama, which was Prisoners for a while, but Home Before Dark is just so good. I don't want to overhype it, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So that's my recommendation for you.
I can't wait. I'm excited. And do you have an idea for what our next topic should be?
Not really. I think we can just talk about it before. We can just come up with something before our next episode, unless you have something. Unless you have a suggestion. I'm cool with whatever, man.
No. I just like the idea of us bouncing. Just switching up each episode. So I guess obviously we're not gonna keep this in, but I guess you can pick the next one if you want, and then I'll just pick the third one.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll go from there. But you want to say anything else, man?
No, I just want to say thanks, and this was awesome. I can't wait to keep doing this. I can't wait till we have more guests on. And this was a lot of fun.
Same here, man. This is awesome. I'm excited to continue doing this with you. And we will catch you guys, the audience. I guess no one's listening to this because this is the film podcast that nobody listens to. All right, everybody. Have a good night.